Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Magicka Wizards of the Square tablet. This was a game that came out a little while ago on iOS, and then they brought it to PC. So I think you can kind of imagine how it's going to go, but we will see. And it was really good on iOS, actually. I've got to say, it is one of the better iOS games, and they made a very, very smart decision when they decided to bring Magicka to tablet, of not just porting the original game, which just wouldn't have worked all that well. They made an entirely new game, which is basically a side-scroller. And I will show you it today, because they've now brought it to PC, which is kind of part of their wrap party celebration for Magicka. They've released their final DLC for Magicka, they're done with it, and of course they're moving on to Magicka Wizard Wars, which is the multiplayer PvP variant that I showed you on Alpha Strike some time ago and had a lot of fun with. So what is Square Tablet, and should you even bother with it? Good question. Let's have a look at the options menu, shall we? Not exactly what I would call particularly fantastic. Not much here. Graphics low, medium, or high. That's it. Well, one way or the other, you will certainly notice something with the graphics, I think. And if you haven't already noticed it on the start menu, I'm sure you'll notice it in the game. The game is primarily mouse control, but you also have your elements bound to the usual keys. So the same as Magicka. One of the elements is gone. They took Arcane out, because apparently it confused people. So if you want to do beams now, you use life in combination with other elements. It does have multiplayer, but it doesn't bloody work. I've tried it several times. All it does is it spins for a couple of minutes and then it errors out. I've tried logging into my Paradox account. It won't let me do that. It won't let me create a new one either. It's just erroring. So the multiplayer just flat out doesn't work on the PC version yet. I assume that it will. If you're watching this on the day that I brought the video out, it probably ain't going to work. Maybe a couple of weeks down the line, they'll have the bloody thing sorted out. So let's have a look at the game. And this is the sort of map screen here, and each of these areas is a level in and of itself, and you kind of walk around a little bit Mario-esque, which is quite nice. And yes, the dreaded stars are here. The stars were not left, unfortunately. I wish they were, but the stars are very much here, in force, Angry Birds style. And we'll talk about that in the level design in a moment. But before I do that, I would like to show you the equipment screen. So in the mobile version, you had to buy all this stuff with gold, and you could earn gold along the way, and you would be able to spend it on various different items to customize your mage. You do have a staff here, as well as robes. Then you got familiars. You still have to buy these for gold, but robes and staffs were all unlocked for the PC version. And there are microtransactions, but you do not have to use them at all. They just seem like they're there for whatever reason. Now that they've unlocked all this stuff, there is quite literally no reason to buy that, because all of the familiars are incredibly cheap. This is the only one that isn't. Yeah. That's also the cheaty little bastard thingy, as you can see. It's very strange. I found that on mobile games, you can actually sell something which will allow you to cheat your way through a level, which is a little bit bizarre. Aside from that, the only thing you really need to buy are there's these scroll buffs if you need them, and then you've got familiars, which are quite amusing. Rather nice, I've got to say. And these only persist through one level. So the thing is, you can earn a lot of gold by picking it up in the level anyway, so no, you're not going to need microtransactions at all. It's really as simple as that. That's just a carryover from the mobile version. All of these robes, they all have different characteristics. That's the double robe, put on a second one. And it buffs a bunch of stuff. The dragon robe, which is the one that I like to use, causes everything to sit on fire regardless. Contaminated robe, all the way through to stuff like the testosterone robe, which means you regenerate HP for enemies blown to pieces, but you are immune to healing. But you do 60% more damage, which is quite interesting. There's the Dead Space robe, as you can see there. So a good little selection there, and staffs-wise, well, there's quite a lot of that as well. All sorts of things, including the sausage stick, all the way down to interesting stuff like the dual staff and the plasma staff, and stuff that's blatantly designed to look like other stuff. Like that, for instance, the chain staff, which is obviously a 40k reference. There you go. I think you can understand how that goes. As to which one I like, I generally roll... I mean, the chain staff is pretty fun, I've got to say, just because it happens to be a chain staff, but I do rather like this one. That's okay against magic enemies, but then there's also one that really helps you in terms of dealing with fire. It's like, yeah, there you go. There's a fire damage sausage stick. That'll do the job. So that's the level of customization you've got there. It's pretty good, for the most part. And then you've got your spellbook, which obviously is going to tell you all sorts of different things, including your achievements. including which enemies you have killed and what they're weak to and all sorts of information like that. You'll notice the graphic style is very, very different to the original Magicka, and you'll see why in a moment. I need to remember that one. That's a good spell. So there are a lot of different custom magics in this game as well. Even though they've taken out one of the elements, they do allow you to cast a number of preset magics as well as your usual custom mixes. A little bit less varied than the original because of a lack of one element, but still there's plenty of spells to cast. Alright, let's get into the game and then I'll tell you what's going on with it. So we shall begin. This is an original story. It is not the same as the original Magicka for the most part. They made some changes here and there. Alright, let's fight the troll, shall we? Well, we certainly won't fight it with that, because that doesn't actually work whatsoever. So as you can see, the magic use is very similar to the original game. You bash a few buttons together. You can only put 4 elements together instead of 5. In Wizard Wars, you can actually only do 3. So they've moved away from that idea. This is not working out very well. I think I may need something a little bit more useful. There we go. I'll just set that on fire. And the gameplay otherwise it's very similar to Magicka, but it's got that whole side-scrolling thing going on with it. So you will kill everything on the screen, then you'll move to the next bit, and that will be that. The combat is actually really, really satisfying. Good sound assets in general, and an excellent implementation of the magic system. There we go. They're undead, so that should deal with that. Quite nicely. Thank you very much. Now, I've got to say that the beams are really, really powerful, at least on the basic difficulty, and the beams are probably enough to beat just about everything. So you don't really have to worry too much about that, but there is something just a little bit satisfying about winding up one of those and just blowing your opponent to pieces with it. So I definitely do not object to that. I like the fact that everything explodes as well. I mean, it's just a very, very satisfying game to play in terms of the combat. Now, graphic style, definitely not what I would consider a bad graphic style at all. I love the aesthetic. The main problem that I've got with it... Uh-oh, that's not going to work, is it? Lightning, probably not that effective either. The main problem that I've got with it is that they obviously haven't actually upgraded the graphics beyond simply putting it in 16:9. Bear in mind, the iOS version, of course, is going to be in 4:3, because, A, it's square, so such is the way of things. Alright, that's just going to heal it. That's not going to help at all. Here you go. Nope, that's not going to help either. Let's freeze him. And then blow him up with a rock, because why not? Splat. And you'll notice, maybe you won't notice it on the YouTube video, but I definitely notice it on my monitor, is things are a little bit pixeled. They're very, very much kind of jaggy around the edges, and what they've obviously done is upscaled the assets from the iOS version and haven't really made any improvements. They haven't, like, redrawn it, or even, as far as I can tell, attempted to put a major filter on it or anything like that to make it look better. So, as a result, the assets, which actually looked really nice and colorful on the iOS version, don't actually look as good on the PC version at all. So, that is not that great. The second problem with it being a mobile game is the fact that the levels are about 2 to 3 minutes long. They don't take very long to do at all, because of course they were designed to be played on a mobile device. Now, of course, there are things like survival challenges which are put in the game, which allow you to play longer waves of stuff, but most of the levels can be beaten in a few minutes, which is probably not going to keep people interested all that much. I like to say it from time to time, and I don't think it's wrong, that most mobile games are designed to be played on the toilet. That's the whole point. So you don't want a lengthy session, or played at the bus stop, for instance, or just while you're waiting. They're not designed to be played in anything longer than really 10-minute sessions. And all of the games that are on mobile devices don't seem to do all that well as a direct result of that. There's a reason why Angry Birds are so successful. It's something that you can just do in a short period of time. And it ends up being enjoyable as a direct result of that. But when I'm on PC, I want a bit more meaningful experience. And that's what I would get from the original Magicka. I would not get it from Wizards of the Stone tablet, not at all. This is something that maybe as a person that really liked the original Magicka would want to try, just to see, hey, you know, what did they do with it? And what they did with it is create a phenomenal mobile game, but a fairly shallow and lackluster PC game. And that happens a lot. It happens an awful lot. whenever you see these kind of games appear, you've always got to have your doubts about it, because you have no idea whether or not the game will actually end up being any good whatsoever for the platform you're playing it on, and generally speaking, it won't. This is a problem I had with Death Rally. Maybe you remember my video of that. It was at least a year ago now. That game had some serious problems because it was designed for a mobile device. The races were over in 50 seconds. It was ridiculous. It's like, if I sit down at my PC, I want a satisfying experience. And you generally don't get that from games that are ported over from mobile devices, because it's not just a case of them looking worse or being less complicated. It's about the pacing. The entire game is designed around a particular pace, and it's not the kind of pace that I find most PC gamers want. You're talking about the same kind of people that can go and play WoW for 8+ hours and not even bat an eye. They're not going to be satisfied by levels which last a couple of minutes. That's no good. They want to sit there and play more, and they don't want their pacing interrupted. That's annoyingly enough also compounded by the fact that they actually gave you all the staffs and the robes, which, if you think about it, it's like, that sounds like a good idea until you realize half of the reason, I suppose, for some people to play that game was to be able to unlock all of that stuff, and you got that progression between games. So, as you were doing those 2 to 3 minute levels, like, oh great, I can get a new staff and I can try that out this level, and that kind of kept you going towards the next level. That's not in the PC version anymore. And it's annoying that there's even any reliance on that whatsoever, but let's be honest, that's the way that things have gone for the time being. I can't even be asked to keep doing this stage. It's just a survival stage. What's the point? That's the way a lot of games have gone. People feel the need to play. So let's grab a minion. People feel the need to play because there is some reward for them to do so, yeah? And I find it incredibly annoying, and I don't think that it should be the case, but it is. But it is. And there's no getting around that, I'm afraid. There is absolutely no getting around that. We have to accept that this is the way that a lot of games have gone. And if you take some of that out, you're going to find that some people are actually less interested in it. I know, it's bizarre, isn't it? But it's true. Very much true. What on earth is this thing? So as you can see, I have myself a gunfish. I don't know what that was, but it just got blown up, so hey, I'm fine with that. As a result of all of this, I find it very difficult to recommend Wizards of the Stone Tablet on PC. I have no problems recommending it on iOS because it's great. Like, it's one of the most fun games that I've played on iOS, and it's really well designed. It doesn't hold up on PC, though. It's the combination of the upscaled assets that weren't properly improved for the PC version, the lackluster progression, and the fact that the game is very clearly designed for 2-minute play sessions. And that's not okay on PC. I'm sorry, it's not. Compound that with the fact that if you want to play multiplayer, you're not going to get to do that right now as of the time of recording because it's bloody well broken, and you are left with what I would describe as a very shallow experience. And that's a little bit of a shame, isn't it? Because I love Magicka, but it's hard for me to recommend this one on PC. On the plus side, I still think it provides satisfying combat, even though the graphics aren't as good as they should be because they're not properly scaled. They're still rather charming, I have to say. Some of the humor is very much still there, and if you're absolutely desperate for more Magicka, then you will find more Magicka here. That you will. But it may not be of the quality that you necessarily expect. So, if you want more Magicka, pick up the last DLC pack, and then think about going on to Magicka Wizard Wars rather than this. The only redeeming factor, I would say, in terms of its price point, is that it's incredibly cheap. They realized, of course, that people are not going to pay $10 for a mobile port. It's $5, and they also tout the fact that you have all of the items unlocked as a bonus, because, like, hey, it's $90 value. That's not really true. Come on. It's not actually true, is it? No one was really gonna buy it for that. That's nonsensical. But yeah, it is $5. But you're ultimately gonna find a fairly flimsy experience if you decide to invest in it, I'm afraid. So there you go, folks. Magicka Wizards of the Stone Tablet. Pick it up on iOS, not on Steam. $5 or your regional equivalent to actually buy it on PC. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.